Hey YouTube, I'm Mr. Terry, a high school history teacher, and welcome back for another History Teacher Reacts video. Alright, today's video is from a channel favorite, and that is the Salmonella Academy. Now the video we're going to watch today is called Why Produce Used to Suck. So this should be an interesting topic. Now I think a lot of us know that the food, especially produce, things that we eat now, and animals as well, the ones we eat now are nothing like they were in their older forms. They've taken a long time of human cultivation and different breeding, and that's why we have the food that we have today. So I'm excited to check this out. Now the original video link is down below. I'm sure you're all subbed to Salmonella, but if you're not, you're going to want to do it. A lot of hilarious history related content over there. Give it the view, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Now you don't have to have bad produce though. And that brings me to today's video sponsor, Green Chef. If you followed me over the last 2 years, you might have heard me share some details about trying to lose weight and overall just eat healthier. Specifically, I've been on a keto or a low-carb diet to help me with my weight loss. Green Chef is a USDA certified organic company that makes eating well easy and affordable, with plans to fit every kind of lifestyle, including vegan, vegetarian, paleo, and keto diets. Green Chef heard about me being on a keto diet and also that I had been trying meal delivery services over the past few months, and they wanted me to try them out. So let me share my experience with Green Chef, and I'll tell you how it works. Green Chef lets you choose from a wide array of easy-to-follow lifestyles and select organic ingredients. Recipes are quick and easy with step-by-step instructions, chef tips, and photos to guide you along. Everything is hand-picked and delivered right to your door. Ingredients come pre-measured, perfectly portioned, and mostly prepared for you. Green Chef's expert chefs design flavorful recipes for your lifestyle. Specifically, I tried some of their keto meals. With Green Chef, it's easy to eat well and discover new recipes every week that you'll love to cook. You can let Green Chef do the meal planning, grocery shopping, and most of the prep for you week after week. The meal I just showed you was the Duca Spice Pork with tahini. It was delicious and I really recommend it. So go to greenchef.us and use the code MrTerry100 to get $100 off and free shipping on your first box. Alright, let's start the video. Alright, Sam, what you got, buddy? By the way, come back to YouTube, please. Why produce used to suck.
Hey kids, you've probably seen this scene in TV or movies at some point. A couple of people end up stranded on a desert island, totally isolated from all civilization. It seems like there's no hope for survival, but then one of them looks 3 feet to the left and, oh my god, it's a tree full of fully grown, plump, delicious, smiling, golden-skinned bananas.
Nope.
Amazing. We're safe for the time being. Hey, don't eat those. They're made of lies. See? Listen, why do fruit exist? For a delicious, nutritious snack for humans and animals alike to enjoy?
You get thrown into the sun.
Throwing him into the sun like that.
You're next, Susan!
How did you know my name? I created you. Anyway, as most of you probably...
Okay, this started off interesting. We threw the guy into the sun. She looks like a Susan, though, right? I agree. So, all right, Sam, why don't delicious produce just look like that on deserted islands?
Probably know. Fruit are a thing because nature figured out, hey, if you put a little bit of deliciousness around your seed, it'll convince some idiot bird or something to carry your baby off to faraway lands, right? But then humans showed up and were like, hey, that's pretty nifty. Listen, is it cool if we selectively breed you for thousands of years to give you horrific deformities to crank up that whole deliciousness part a couple hundred notches?
Yes.
Alright, cool. Let's take a look at bananas, specifically the Cavendish variety that we all know and love. On the inside, we got like 2% seeds, 93% delectable banana meat, and 5% that brown part at the bottom that your mom says is perfectly fine to eat, but you still don't trust. Great for a snack, terrible for reproducing efficiently.
Agreed.
Meanwhile, check out the thing on the right here. That's Musa acuminata, one of the suspected ancestors of today's nanners.
I heard of that. It's like at some point people were eating this one on the left, right? And just it was way harder. It was, by harder I mean difficult. Pick out the seeds, and I guess you maybe eat the stuff around. And I guarantee it wasn't as good as like the banana on the right that we have today. But you can adjust that.
much smaller and jam-packed with seeds, with just enough flesh in there to make it worth some smelly primate's time to crack open a yellow one with the boys. Here's another wild type banana, Musa balbisiana. Less sweet, way starchier, harder to get into, hella seeds, same shit different day really. But hey, if you stick that boy in the ground, you've got an okay chance of making a new banana tree. You bury a modern banana, all you're gonna end up with is a dirty banana. And not that one club in Miami, I mean an actual dirty banana. That's because, like a lot of cultivated fruit, culinary bananas are so inbred and malformed that they can't produce offspring even if they wanted to. So, word of advice for you men out there, if ever a lady points out how poorly endowed you are, just show her this JPEG. She'll say, wow, I didn't realize it was so potent and fertile. You really opened my eyes, thank you. Bananas aren't the only piece of produce to follow this pattern though, not by a long shot. For example, take the watermelon. According to Monsanto, everybody's favorite corporation, the first evidence of human cultivation of the watermelon dates back to Egypt around 5,000 years ago. Back then, they were only 2 inches in diameter, around the size of a tennis ball.
I always found it interesting. I like researching like where indigenous animals and food come from. Because a lot of times it's not what you expect. You know, I think a lot of people might think that most of what you eat can be grown or even comes from where you live. And that's just not true at all. I mean, most of the most useful animals and plants came from Eurasia, right? And a lot of them from Mesopotamia, by the way. That has some of the most early important ones, which is why civilization grew there so fast, is because you had a food that has high calories per acre, easy to farm, animals to help you with such cultivation. And then, of course, it's food. It's linked to survival and reproduction. So something like food is going to reproduce very fast and, again, continue to improve because it is directly tied with the survival of mankind.
The flesh was supposedly tough and bitter, much like that of a tennis ball. Of course, just as the growth of a delicious green baby takes time, so too did the evolution of the modern watermelon. In fact, even as late as the mid-1600s, watermelons looked way different from what we have today, as shown by this painting by Giovanni Stanchi. Notice the thicker rind, the larger seeds, and the weird segmentation on the inside. Definitely a cooler still life subject, but ultimately inferior as a summertime snack.
Yeah, I mean, look how hard that would be to eat. Like, to eat the actual nutritious part. You want the juicy red stuff, right? So you have to get out the seeds and just scoop it out and kind of eat around it. And then you have the kind of inedible part in the middle. Kind of crazy now. I don't know if we'll get to it. We're producing seedless watermelons and seedless fruit in general, which is just crazy to think about that we've done that.
Inside. Definitely a cooler still life subject, but ultimately inferior as a summertime snack. How about vegetables? Tell me, do you enjoy cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, collard greens, broccoli, or cauliflower? I mean, I guess I like broccoli and cauliflower. The rest are kind of gross though. Wrong! All 6 of these vegetables are actually the same thing. That means you like them all. Ooh. That's not how that works. I'll be good. Anyway, these veggies...
Do you want to go to the sun? That's great. I had no idea that they came from that. Those ones specifically. But yeah, there's, food's like a family tree too, just like animals and how they've evolved. You have, again, plants that have done that, branched out in different things. And again, highly accelerated by human innovation and the human selective breeding of developing these plants. I'm going to start using that class. You be quiet or I'm throwing you into the sun. Maybe that'll work.
These are all just cultivars of the same species, Brassica oleracea, otherwise known as wild cabbage. Every part of the plant is edible to some extent, but there's not much of it to go around. So a bunch of different people throughout history said, alright, what if we just take one specific part of the plant and go fucking insane with it? And that's what they did. Those who bred for giant leaves got kale, going for huge dense flower buds gets you broccoli, juicy engorged lateral leaf buds equal Brussels sprouts, etc. Speaking of segues, let's check out eggplants. The OG eggplant was first domesticated in India, where it can still be found in the wild today. It looks nothing like an eggplant though. They actually resemble little green berries the size of grapes.
That doesn't look like the emoji at all. And it's way less funny.
The only thing it seems to have in common with the classic purple eggplant is how little both of them have in common with an egg. However, if we add the RGB percentage values of their color and merge their shapes, we do get what looks approximately like an egg. So I guess that solves that mystery. This whole transformation really is a testament to man's greatness, though. That's like starting out with a frog and selectively breeding them until you end up with Grimace from McDonald's lore. Speaking of which, did you know Grimace used to be evil and have 4 arms? This is a real thing. I'd like to think that when they lopped off his extra limbs, all his evil energy went with him, and now there's just two
Stole all
plump
the
purple
shakes.
cylinders scampering around the countryside waiting to pull unsuspecting kids under ball pits, never to be seen
Oh,
again.
God.
That's just my McDonald's headcanon, though. Anyway, back
Grimace
to
is weird. What the heck is Grimace? Do you kids even know about the McDonald's characters or characters? They were weird. Dude with the hamburger head. Ronald McDonald, creepy clown you wouldn't want anywhere near your kids. All the characters are weird.
whatever we were talking about. Next is corn, or sorry, maize.
Maize.
I call it corn like a normal person. If
Exactly.
they're supposed to be called maize, these would be called mazes. Obviously, that's like the perfect opportunity.
Maize
But
is
they're
for
not, so put an etymological sock in it. Or stocking. Anyway, I was totally expecting old corn to look like those baby corns you find in Chinese food and literally nowhere else. Turns out those actually are just baby corns. One suspected ancestor of corn is known as Teosinte, which looks like this. Gee whiz, Sam, that sure does look like garbage. Good eye, Billy. That's
Yeah, I believe corn is one of the longest histories of human cultivation, and it's also, and maybe they get to it, but the most important food product that developed in the Western Hemisphere. Most of the good food products, like I said earlier in the video, that we have today, like wheat, developed in the Eastern Hemisphere. So the Western Hemisphere didn't have nearly as much access to the good foods and animals that existed over in the East. So just based off of that, you would need even more human cultivation and more innovation and selective breeding to get those types of crops that are going to sustain your population. And yeah, corn is incredibly diverse and has a lot of DNA in it and things like that, like so many lines of it. I'm not a chemist, but from what I understand, yeah, it's extremely complicated down to like a cellular level, which I think is largely because of the constant selective breeding and improvement upon the crop.
That's because it was garbage. Whereas modern corn has a kernel count in the hundreds, Teosinte only has 5 to 12, with each one being encased in a hard shell that's basically impossible to get into short of boiling it or chipping a tooth. The fact that people decided to domesticate it in the first place makes sense once you realize that most grains are basically the same thing. But honestly, that just makes me wish people figured out how to turn a piece of wheat into a big chunk of whatever to gnaw on. This whole thing disappointed me so much that I actually moved it to the top of my list of reasons not to visit the Mayans if I ever get a time machine.
All right, let's go to these. Reasons not to visit the Mayans. The corn was bad. Yeah, it was not like what we're doing today. It's not the corn on the cob you get at your barbecue. Brutal human sacrifice, sure. Overly complex calendar was pretty complex. Probably all selfish AF. Even their name sounds like mine. Scared that Quetzalcoatl was real. Now, the Mayans believed in Quetzalcoatl. I know that was a major deity for the Aztecs later on. I don't want to say that the Mayans didn't worship Quetzalcoatl, but I know it's an Aztec thing, but I wasn't sure it went back that far. You guys can help me on that. Feathered serpent god, but big in the Aztec Empire, which is thrived a lot later than the Mayans by centuries.
Nonetheless, as you can see, human endeavor can accomplish amazing things. And just as a few thousand years of selective breeding can turn this into this, a few hours of learning a week can turn you into, a more talented and interesting version of you. And what better way to do that than with Skillshare.com? Skillshare is an online learning community with over 22,000 classes in technology, design, business, and more. Premium membership.
Awesome. Let's talk about it. All right, so studying the development of food products is truly an important thing to understand the development of human society because it goes hand in hand. I mean, the reason why we have this enormous population of humans on this planet and are very advanced is because of this stuff, because of agriculture and selective breeding and the human touch that has been put on this is the development of why we can have such an advanced society, right? This food becomes, healthier. Again, this term that's kind of called calories per acre, where you're farming and you can get the most calories out of the food, and also a high calorie to, what do they call this? Calorie to like energy burned, if that makes sense. For like, so for every whatever unit of energy you spend farming, you make that back in extra energy that's going to come from your food, right? And if you have that kind of high yielding crop, you are going to have more sustainable populations, right? And then fewer people are going to have to do farming in your community, which then allows time for people to develop other things like technologies and study different types of things. So education, right? All that comes from having a sustainable, efficient diet in the system is what allows, it's what created modern society today, that people didn't have to spend all their time hunting and gathering, or having such a high part of the population involved with that people can pursue other interests. I mean, again, it's one of the most integral things in the development of human history. Anyway, so that was great to check out. Hopefully you learned a lot. That was great to see some more examples about where some of the crops had come from with Sam's awesome spin there. So hopefully you appreciate it, or we're going to throw you into the sun. All right. So thanks again. Again, the original video link is down below. Make sure you check that out. And once again, thank you to today's sponsor, Green Chef. Go down below into the video description so you can get that link and get your discount and get started eating some good food. All right. With that, we'll see you next time. Bye.